Welcome everyone to the No Sell Wrestling Podcast, episode 9, the fallout from Wrestlemania. My name is Nick, otherwise known as Tequila the Body Ventura today, and I'm with my friend Alan, and also down below Rebelhausen, or still Rebel, I think. Still Rebel. How are we doing, boys?
Doing well. Doing very well.
Good.
Yeah. So it's over for another year. It's done. The flagship show, the pinnacle of the wrestling business. The nights, 2 nights now, where all the storylines have been building for the whole year, and all the long-term booking that Triple H and his cronies do, all comes down to that night. Or they did a rush job and everything was just last minute brought to the wall. How are we feeling? Our initial impressions before we go over the matches. How are we feeling? The general vibe. Was it a good show, or was it average or below average? And let's be honest. How are we feeling on Monday morning when it was all over?
I felt like I just watched an episode of Raw over 2 nights.
Yeah.
Maybe a Saturday night's main event at a push, but it was no better than Raw.
What's going on? When that mania comes for you, brother.
So none of us were exactly blown away by it then.
Nope. Do you know, actually, I'm going to say this. I was actually horrified. I was actually enjoying some good clips of Hulk Hogan, and I was getting some Snicker ads, and I had something interrupt me called Wrestlemania. What the hell? What the hell?
Yeah.
I'll be talking to Netflix about that. How dare you interrupt my footage of Hulk Hogan? And I got to see those clips a number of times, which, you know.
Now, I can tell you why this has happened. It's pretty obvious, right? The pay-per-view market is dead, mostly. AEW still has access to it, right? But the WWE gave up on pay-per-view when they launched their own network. And then obviously in the end that folded, and then they made the cushy deal with Netflix, and then they were on Peacock as well. And now they're on ESPN. So because of this is what we have to suffer. Because it's not pay-per-view anymore, we have to suffer the ads, because this is how they need to make their money. So this is the price we pay technically for lower prices, and it is lower prices because, at least for, I don't know about you guys, but I think Rebel said you get it for free, but me and Alan, Netflix is what, $6.99?
Yeah, something like that.
Right. So, and how much in the old days before the network? The network was 10 quid for us, which was a bloody good deal, by the way. But before that, it was, Alan, you remember this, on Sky Sports, 15 quid.
Yeah, £15 a pay-per-view. Yeah, that's right.
So this is, and I don't like it, but this is the reason. This is what it is. This is the sacrifice we make for paying £6 a month. We used to pay 15 quid a month, and we didn't get any ads. Now we pay 6 quid a month, and we have an hour and a half of ads thrown in our faces.
But you know, there's ways of moving around these ads, though, Tequila, because if they're going to throw ads in our face, which, given the nature of it, they are, because it wasn't actually WrestleMania's or WWE's ad, it was Netflix recouping their investment to WWE and TKO. But the very least they could have done is at least given us unique ads throughout the bloody show, instead of throwing the same crap at us every single time there's a break.
But they do this on their weekly shows, though, Rebel. Which you watch SmackDown or Raw, which I rarely ever do live. I can't stand watching them live for this very reason, because they've got these "we'll be back in 3 minutes" countless times. Because, as I'm sure you guys know, America, if you think we get it bad over here with our UK TV, they have more ads in America than we get over here. Their weekly programs are chock block full of ads. So their weekly shows are full of them. So that's why we get these, we'll be back in 3 minutes, because we don't get the ads. We get still pictures, or we get Hulk Hogan clip documentaries instead. Whereas in America, they weren't getting that crap. They were getting whatever ads ESPN wanted to show them. That's what they were getting over there. I'm really not defending it, because me and Alan were bored shitless. We were bored shitless. It's not again, but it's the price we pay for the cheaper price. And put it this way, I ain't paying 15 quid for these pay-per-views. If we were under the old model, I would say these aren't worth 15 quid to me. They're barely worth $6.99.
It's true, especially when you get something like Backlash, which is probably gonna have like 5 matches again.
Yeah,
I'll be pissed. The money these people pay to get into to sit at ringside, and then they just present you with like 4 or 5 matches. I mean, no.
Yeah,
No
I mean,
way.
again, I'm honestly not defending it. I'm giving you the reason. I'm not saying it's right. I'm giving you the reason. So yeah, I mean, it was a very, very hard to. The viewing experience was ruined. I mean, me and Alan watched it. Alan came over to my place and we watched it, live. And we were on our phones, or I was on the PC, waiting every 5 minutes while these ads were on. We were just sitting there, just like, well, this is boring. Because we spent half the time being bored out of our brains waiting for ads. And then me and Alan started joking with each other. I wonder what ad they're going to play once we get back from the ads. Because you got back from the 4 minute break, and then you got 2 ads. So you had an ad before the 5 minute break, got the 5 minute break normally with a Hogan documentary, and then that wasn't even bad enough. You then came back and you got another couple of ads. All in all, you got like 6 minutes of non-stop ads after every match.
Yeah.
I mean, it ruins the viewing experience. It takes you out of the moment. It takes you out of the mood as well. It's horrible, guys. It is. It's a horrible thing. But it's not going to change, because unless they go back to the pay-per-view model, and they're not going to, this is always going to be there, and we have to accept it. We haven't got to like it, but we have to accept it because it's not going to change. Okay, that's the little complaint, I guess, of the ads. I'm sure. Big up to Wayne Bonner in the chat. I'm sure, Wayne, you enjoyed the ads as well. We all did. We all saw the ads over here. But let's talk about night one. The worst of the 2 nights. I think we can all agree on that.
Easily
the worst of the 2. Now, the opening contest was the rubbish, stupid 6-man tag. And I remember saying to Alan, remember at WrestleMania 10 when we got Bret Hart versus Owen Hart as the opening contest of a WrestleMania?
It was like a 30-minute classic, wasn't it?
A legendary, fantastic match between 2 great technical wrestlers. Great match, good storytelling. Bret and Owen were both amazing wrestlers, different but both amazing. And that is the kind of caliber that I personally hold opening contest to for a WrestleMania. So the fact that we got this was an absolute, won't say, I mean, it was an embarrassment really to me, because it was more focused on, it ended up becoming a bit of a comedy spot. It ended up becoming a comedy match with Aisha Speed. It ended up becoming a comedy match. And I thought to myself, this is what you do before, this is the bathroom break match. This is what you do before the main event. This is the match you put on before the main event to call the crowd. You don't put this on the first contest. This is not how you galvanize a crowd. What did you guys think?
I'm with you. I'm completely with you. I thought it was a complete absolute comedy match. Thank God it runs short, but we'll get to lengths of matches later on. But yeah, thank God this runs short, because Aisha is not a wrestler. We all know that he's not a wrestler. He tried his best, but yeah, he didn't need to be in. He didn't need to be in that match at all. He really shouldn't have been in that match.
But you raised an interesting point about opening matches for WrestleMania. And if you want to kind of get technical with the way they split, like obviously over here in Europe, it was one seamless broadcast, bad yet. But in America, apparently the first hour was free over there. And then it went behind the pay-per-view model is still kind of quasi there. It was behind some sort of a paywall thing for the remaining.
It's ESPN. Yeah, it's ESPN Rebel, and in America, it was behind the ESPN app. They got the first hour free on both nights, and then if they wanted to watch the rest, they had to subscribe to the proper ESPN app.
Okay, so it that doesn't actually then take. I tried to give them an excuse, but obviously TKO didn't do it. But yeah, no, that was a snore fest. Like it actually set the tone for the night, and that is embarrassing to say. Like, the quality of that match was just so bad. Like, you had the Usos, who are one of the top tag teams to ever do it, sitting there with LA Knight, who, despite his flaws, again, is a relatively good wrestler. You have Logan Paul, who did go to superstar route and kind of a sled guest, and he's a perfectly serviceable heel, and even the other Aegis is not so bad. But Aisha Speed then comes in And you have this whole malarkey and palaver about him being left in the ring with LA or something, I think it was. And he was just like, nope. And he booked it. And you're like, really? Like, what is the point of you being there? Like, he was literally standing on the apron for, 80% of the match?
Yeah.
Eventually, then, he did his screw up. Scripted screw up. And he got beat up by the Vision. But, like, no story, no jeopardy, just absolutely nada. It offered us nothing, and if anything, it put the crowd to sleep.
I think it actually did a disservice to a number of the people in the match. If you look at the people in the match, they've got Logan Paul, who could be the best heel because he's incredibly unlikable because he is an incredibly likable person. All you got to do is watch his YouTube stuff. He's an incredible douchebag, and he knows he's a douchebag, and he knows how to make money from being a douchebag. He is one of the best heels they have at being a bad guy. He's not like some other people who don't really want to be a heel. You can tell. He gets into it. He's good at it because he doesn't really have to try that hard. It's natural for him. So to him to be wasted in a match like this, I think is bad. Jey Uso, despite well-documented flaws about his singles career, he still was, and I do say the term was because I think it's only going down. He was one of the most popular guys they had. Whether I liked it or not, he did get a great crowd response every week. Now they kind of shoved it into the ground. They went too far with it. The Royal Rumble, me and Alan joked about the War Games when he did his Yeet stuff. They destroyed it. But a year ago, he was probably the second or third most popular guy in the whole promotion. And he won a world title. He beat Gunther by submission. It seems crazy to think about it where they both are this now. But he beat Gunther clean by submission to win the world title last WrestleMania. And then a year later, he's back in a tag team, going nowhere again, stuck in a meaningless comedy tag team match. What a fall from grace. Now, I'm not saying he's not blameless because he's become a very poor singles wrestler. He certainly seems to be much more adept at tag team wrestler. When he's left to do all the stuff by himself, he runs out of move, he runs out of gas. He's got cardio problems, which is shocking for wrestlers nowadays. But he gets gassed very quickly, and his execution of moves, Alan knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yep. The spears, the super kicks, all bad. The only move he does it's okay. The splash off top rope's okay. He does that okay. So unfortunately, a lot of that is down to his own makings and his own failings. But still, to see someone fall from grace so much within a year doesn't really do a service to Jey Uso because he's still very popular. He's still very popular overall, just not as popular as he was. And then you've got LA Knight, who again is one of the most, whether or not we like him is irrelevant. He is one of the most popular people on the roster, LA Knight. He always gets a good reaction, despite him being booked terribly the last year. He still gets a very good reaction, which somebody who wasn't as uniquely over like he is would be getting virtually no reaction, but he still gets a healthy enough reaction despite the kind of choker tag that he's generated himself. And a guy who can't ever win the big match is a guy who always comes up short. I said to Alan, he's like Lex Luger used to be. He's the new version of Lex Luger, somebody who can never win the big match. And it's a disservice to him as well. So that's 3 wrestlers right there who deserve a lot better. Even Jimmy Uso, who probably is the better of the 2 Usos, at least in the ring, deserves better. Even Austin Theory, who I'm not in love with either, probably deserves better. If they were seriously going to try to push him, they all deserve better than to be in the spot they found themselves in. I can't imagine any of the men, other than ISHO Speed, were very happy being in that position. Opening in a comedy match, a short comedy match that left no impression and did nothing for any of these guys' momentum. So for me, it was a dud. I'm like, if you want to give grades, for me, this was like a 1 out of 5. It was terrible.
Yeah, I agree. Terrible match. Awful.
I suppose the only person that kind of probably tolerated it was because he's probably personally friends outside of the thing with him is Paul, because they do all their YouTube fantasy football and all that kind of crack together. But -1 out of 5. It was brutal.
Right, let's go on to the next match. There's a lot to cover. So the next match was Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu in apparently it was an unsanctioned match, which for me was just an ODQ match. I'm not being funny. Which leads me to my biggest criticism is I don't think they went far enough. It was too controlled. It was still too controlled. It was still.
Yeah.
Did they show enough hatred for each other, considering what it was meant to be? If it's unsanctioned, that's meant to be that these two are so. These two detest each other so much that the WWE won't allow them to compete in a sanctioned match because they don't want to be held responsible to what these two guys will do. Did that hatred come through in the match? Because I don't think it did.
I don't think so. And remember what I said on the night.
The sword. Yeah.
McIntyre comes to the ring with a sword. Use it. He hate him that much. He's unsanctioned. Go for it. WWE won't do anything. Police might, but WWE won't do anything about it. Use your sword.
Yeah. For me, though, I think they made a mistake with booking it as an unsanctioned match because you could clearly see they were afraid to injure Drew because if he misses the filming commitments, then they're up for breach of contract and blah, 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 blah. So I think they wrapped it up in cotton wool and padding, and it just failed to deliver on what you would expect an unsanctioned match. Like, you'd expect people split open. You'd expect some, oh my God moment where Fatu leaps off, I don't know, a balcony or something and goes through Drew on a table. But there was nothing there. It was basically a traditional match that allowed you to do certain things that were very pedestrian.
I don't think it did that much for Fatu either. I mean, obviously Fatu, we'll talk about it later on Raw, obviously is now been elevated to attempting to be in the main event, and I suppose he is going to get his main event match. I personally don't think he's there. I don't think the feud with Drew particularly showcased him in the best light. I think, and Rebel, I know you agree with me, I think he should be a heel. I don't think he should be a babyface. I think that Drew McIntyre has taken a lot of losses. I understand why he had to lose. I get it. He's going to film, so he'll, I get it. But I think massively, considering he was world champion only like 6 weeks ago, I think they should be doing so much more with Drew McIntyre. Like he really, for me, is almost a complete wrestler. He doesn't particularly have any faults, Drew McIntyre. He looks the part. He sounds the part. He's a very good wrestler who can do unique styles. He can brawl. He can do technical wrestling. He ticks all the boxes, and he's never become the guy that they were going to run with. The only time they were ever going to run with him was during the pandemic era. And of course, that was during the pandemic era. When he beat Brock for the world title at WrestleMania, which was meant to be his crowning, that was meant to when he was meant to be crowned as the number one guy. It coincided with COVID, which of course is not his fault. But ever since then, ever since the crowd's come back, he's taken so many losses. He shouldn't be losing much. Drew McIntyre's that kind of guy because of how he looks and his aura and everything like that. He should be getting the kind of push that Gunther gets. Drew McIntyre should, and he hasn't. He loses too much for somebody who has his aura. He loses way too often. Too often. And not only is it too often, it's too clean as well. He loses too cleanly. He's not protected. They don't protect him when he loses.
Can I ask you this then, Tequila? Because I do agree with you. He does lose too much. And he's got, as you said, he's got the team. He's got the aura. He's got the chiseled look that they love in a wrestler. Are they trying to protect too many guys? Is there not enough fodder and too many lines?
Well, there is no squash matches, as you know. When's the last time you really saw it? I mean, you can say, well, Obafemi, yeah, okay, maybe that's the closest thing you'll get is he'll squash somebody who's really low down on the roster. But the days of there being weekly squash matches again and again, those days are long gone where you would build up somebody. So with somebody like McIntyre, because of the 50-50 booking that they put in place, McIntyre loses as much as he wins. And there's some people, especially if you're trying to book him as these monster characters, like Brock Lesnar generally is quite protected. Gunther Gunther's a better example I've got of a recent example of somebody who, yes, he's lost a couple of matches, but if you think about how many matches Gunther's lost since he came into it, right? He was IC champion for a year and a half, didn't lose then. He lost the title to Sami Zayn. Okay, then when was his next loss? He lost to Cody. I think he lost to Cody Rhodes at the Crown Jewel. Okay, and then he lost to Jey Uso. So that's 2 or 3 losses a year, max. Gunther's had 2 or 3 losses. He lost to CM Punk at SummerSlam. He lost the title. He hasn't lost since. Gunther loses 2 or 3 times a year. That's protected. Drew McIntyre loses every other pay-per-view. So they can do it when they want to, is my answer, Rebel. They can do it when they want to, but for whatever reason, they don't see him that way. And I can't tell you why. They don't see him enough. They don't value him enough to protect him. Maybe they feel that they gave him the ball during the COVID era, and for whatever reason, it's harsh because there was no crowds to gauge if he was popular or not. How could they gauge it? There was no live crowds to gauge if McIntyre was good or not in that role. He never got a chance really to prove it because by the time the crowds came back, he'd lost the belt.
True. So,
Alan, any thoughts on that before we move on? McIntyre and Jacob?
Like you've already covered. Yeah, it's just a no DQ match. There was nothing really extraordinary about it. It was
big
too
up to
short
Carl
as well.
in the chat as well. Good evening, gents. Yeah, big up to Carl. Okay, let's move on then. There is going to be a lot of negativity, especially on night one. There isn't that much really to be dapper about on night one. Rebel's favourite match, AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch. A rematch from Elimination Chamber. It looks like that's the end of the feud, though I have heard rumours there could be another match. I personally don't think it needs any more matches. I think it's done. Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee. Again, no stipulation. Very surprised that it was just a straight match. Becky wins, cheats, which we expected. The referee, Jessica Carr, as we expected, did get involved. This time, though, Becky was able to manipulate the situation and finally score a win over AJ Lee for the first time in the whole feud. I did think she did need to pick up a win. But I think the feud overall for me is probably considered, it's not the worst I've ever seen, but when I think about I think at the start of the feud, I think when it was the mixed tag, I think there was a lot of high hopes for what it could be, and then it's petered out. What do you guys think of the match and everything?
I think it's played out exactly how we thought it was going to play out. We all knew Becky Lynch was winning this.
Yeah.
It was written in the stars. It couldn't have ended any other way because we all know AJ Lee she's a part-timer because she's obviously got other commitments to handle outside of the WWE. So yeah, this was the right result. We have to see where she reappears, and I'm willing to bet it's going to be in a world title picture.
Rebel, you probably dislike this feud more than the rest of us, so you're probably not that surprised that it was a bit of a wet fart, I suppose. In the end, there was not much to it. It was just okay. She beats her in like 8 minutes. That's it. That's the end of the feud.
I think the highlight of the match for me was the entrance to one of the years and the botch on the opening segments. That was probably the best part of that match.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest with you, if we hadn't got the Chicago match, I'd have said, you know what, fair dinkum, this is the end game. I don't know how you'd have manipulated the title that it would be on AJ's shoulders going into it, but like, it was just like, yeah, I was already done with that feud before we got to Mania, and I enjoyed the bit of an interaction with Jess Carr. I kind of wanted Jess Carr to punk her out, to be honest with you. Even though I do like Becky and what she does in terms of her heel work, but I just think it needed something more, maybe in terms of the outside interference, just to make it like having Paige even skip around the ring, maybe set up a possible future match with AJ Lee. It doesn't have to be for another year, but if Paige kind of skipped around with her title, kind of gave her a look and a wink and skipped back out, it might have added something to it. But yeah, it was a wet fart. But it's over now, thankfully.
Yeah, I'm not sure where either women goes from here. I don't see a particular feud with AJ. I imagine she wants to do a match with Roxanne Perez because they're good friends. I imagine she wants to, but there's nothing in place as of right now. They'll have to elevate Roxanne Perez if they want to do that feud. So maybe 6 months down the line, maybe if they elevate Perez, maybe Perez can take the title from Morgan. Who knows? And Becky Lynch, I mean, she's dominated that IC title, either chasing it or holding it for the whole year now. I don't see that many challenges. Maybe like a Sol Ruka or something, because obviously we know there's been a couple of debuts. Maybe someone like that she'll work with.
Depends how she is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Just quickly, I do think that with Becky, she's just going to be basically in a holding picture until it's time to put her back in the main world title picture again, because obviously she's only had a reign recently, so she's basically waiting with that. And yeah, as you said, Sol Ruka made her debut on Raw, which does raise a question though. She did a spot where it was the ending sequence of a match. You're about, 5.5 feet up in the air. There's 2 tables, not stacked on top of each other, but side by side. And you got to ask yourself, are these kind of spots actually necessary? Because there's more chance of something going wrong when you're landing on those tables with a second one behind you, as I saw with Sol on NXT, and she clobbered the back of her head off the second table. And it just makes you wonder, as you said maybe in the chat, Tequila, should they be focusing more on how to throw a active punch than stupid spots that are basically risking injury?
Well, I mean, that's it's a very deep subject to go in because we're talking about today's modern wrestling. Obviously, me, Alan, Rebel, maybe not quite. You're kind of in the middle, but me and Alan grew up 90s wrestling, even late 80s a little bit, 90s wrestling, where that stuff wasn't really prevalent until the cruiserweight division in WCW in the late 90s. You didn't see that kind of stuff. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate Sol Ruka's athletic ability. She's a crazy athlete, just like Javon Evans. As much as I don't see that much in him overall, I can't deny the guy is an incredible athlete. Of course he is. Incredible gymnasts, I should say. And that's what they are, they're gymnasts. So to answer your question, Rebel, no, for me, wrestling doesn't need that. You can do it now and again, but it has to fit. It has to fit everything else. Just doing it for the sake of doing it, it's not worth the risk. Because as you just said, so much stuff can go wrong. It's the kind of thing that you do very, very, very rarely. It's the kind of thing that is done on real special occasions. And was this NXT show, when she's just been called up to the main roster, which is her big break now, is it a smart thing for her to be even attempting that kind of bump, knowing that she's now on the main show? This is her chance now. This is her big chance. No, it's silly. Is it her fault? We don't know if it was the Rose agent or the producers who decided for her, or if it was her saying, no, I want to do this. We don't have that information if it was her personal decision. They obviously thought she could pull it off safely. You'd like to believe that they thought they could pull it off, that she could pull it off safely. But was it unnecessary? Of course not. But that's going to be a problem with Sol Ruka, full stop. I noticed this during her match with Bayley at Saturday Night's Main Event. She's very impressive physically, but she does too many flips. And I'm just there thinking to myself, that move would have been just as good without all the flips. Slow down, pace yourself, and do that stuff when you need to. Less is more. Less is more sometimes. She's got to learn that. She's young, so maybe she'll learn it in 10 years' time. But right now, she's going to be one of those people who gets injured again and again. She will be.
Even in terms of a mitigation point of view, like if you had to do the spot, why have a second table side by side with one table? The effect is going to be there. You're going through a table from 5 feet of a fall, and that takes out the bang on the back of the head potential. Like, it's adding unnecessary risk in terms of your furniture layout. It's not even down to the wrestler at that stage. It's like, oh, we want to make it look a bit more obscene, so we're putting in a second table right next to the table you're going through, and unless you fall exactly flush with the first table, you're going to connect with the second table too.
I don't know, Rebel. Like I say, I would assume they got it cleared. I would assume that they got it cleared from the producers backstage, whoever produced the matches for them. And obviously, I don't know if it's Shawn Michaels. I imagine Shawn Michaels obviously plays a role, but whoever it was who they must have gotten the green. You would like to believe they got the green light to do it. Is it negligence? Maybe the NXT coaches took the after the ball. Maybe somebody like a Shawn Michaels who should know better. You know, you don't need to do that. You can do high spots, but you don't need to do that. We need to make that a bit safer. You don't need to be taking these kind of risks. You might want to do it, but that's where you need a calm, mature head to say to these younger kids, you don't have to go that far. You can still do impressive stuff, but curb it in a little bit. You don't have to take that risk, and you can still be impressive. I'd like to believe there's guys backstage who know a lot more about me than pro wrestling. Guys like Shawn Michaels, guys like that, who would be able to educate the young kids, saying, "You don't need to do that stuff. You can still be impressive, but you don't have to take. That doesn't have to be done that way." Is it negligence? I don't know. I don't know, Rebel.
I suppose that's true, and that probably brings you to another women's match and the tag titles.
Obviously, the big news is the return of Paige. It was, I think, the WWE unfortunately did not let this one get by. A lot of the times they're able to plug the gap, so to speak. This time they were not able to. It was leaked a couple of days earlier that Paige was coming back, and this was the only match that really made sense to her. They could have had her just appear. As Rebel said, she's got history with both Becky Lynch and AJ Lee. That would have been an interesting way to bring her back, but they obviously wanted her to wrestle. So if they wanted her to wrestle, this was the only match to do it in. Obviously, Nikki Bella's injury. For me, I'm more than I didn't want to. I knew the Bellas would win the belts. I knew they would. That was the whole reason they came back. I knew they'd win the belts. That's why I said that in my predictions. But I didn't want to see it. So I'm more than happy that Paige is there rather than Nikki Bella. Paige looked a little bit
rusty,
smaller.
Okay,
I'm going to say she looked like somebody who was more frail. If you remember her time, and we're going back 10 years now, but if you remember her time in like 2016, when did she retire? 2016, 2017? About 8 years ago or something she retired?
Yeah, something like that.
She was much bigger physically. She was much bigger. She was more muscular. Her body was bigger. She was more toned. She looked very small to me. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. So I'm a little bit concerned if her body's going to be able to hold up. That would be my concern, long term. But we'll have to see if they protect her. But how did you guys feel about seeing Paige? Hard to judge her in an 8-man match like that. Hard to. She'll be tested when she has to do some singles matches. We'll see just how much ring rust there is there. What did you guys think?
I didn't mind her coming back. Obviously, like you said, it was leaked the day before that she'd signed a new deal with the WWE, and then we're all scratching our heads thinking, okay, where they're going to slot her in. And we obviously thought, yes, maybe Becky Lynch, AJ Lee, she'll probably do some fuckery there or something like that. But no, she ended up in the 8 women's match, and bar that, the only thing that I can remember was the Irresistible Force's entrance, come dressed up like Demolition. That's basically all I remember of that match.
Yeah, as you said, Alan, we all knew that Paige was coming back, and I suppose the negative part of the Paige thing for me was Michael Cole insulted the intelligence of the wrestling community and said, "Oh my God, who knew that this was going to happen?" or something to that effect. You're kind of going, Michael, really? Come on now. Like, it's like when they kind of dangle out, oh, Rebel never punked out Tequila and cost them the World Heavyweight Championship. They're now best friends. Wrestling fans remember this crap, like, come on. Like, don't insult our intelligence. But, yeah, no, I definitely agree that she's definitely a slimmer frame. Possibly to do with maybe that injury that she had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, maybe she's coming back to go out where it all started. And it could be a short run, who knows? But maybe she just wanted to come back and kind of finish her story, to use the Rhodes moniker, at WWE. Maybe she's here for a good time, not a long time. And if that's the case, so be it. You know, anyone that wants to come home to finish their career and they get the opportunity, you can't begrudge them for taking it. And as Adam said, the match itself, well, like, I didn't get why Bayley was coming out to Valkyria's music. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a bop. It gets the crowd going. But this is Bayley you're talking about, not some greenhorn that they brought up from NXT. And that just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. It did feel. I think that again. I think there's 2 or 3 women in that lineup. I don't care about Nia Jax or Lash Legend. Lash Legend, obviously, she's really young. She's really green. She could have used maybe a couple more years in NXT, if I'm honest with her. Nia Jax, I don't like Nia Jax. She injures people. I think Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss could be utilized better than they are. That was a bit of a throwaway. They didn't even break up. I thought at the very least that, I mean, Alexa Bliss ate the pin again. She loses a lot as well. I thought that would be the impetus to, that would be do something, break them up, because, it's been going long enough. Just something. But there was absolutely nothing. There was. I mean, that maybe they'll break up. Maybe on SmackDown this week. I assume Alexa will be the one going heel. Maybe she'll attack her. So maybe me saying this won't age well, because in 2 days' time they'll break up. Now is the time to do it. I thought they would have do something like that at Mania, but instead we didn't get anything. It was just a bit of a miscommunication. Alexa Bliss ate another pin. The Bellas won the belts. I assume, guys, that once Nikki's ready to go, she'll attack Paige. That writes itself, doesn't it? The Bellas, Nikki Bella's better heel anyway. So I'm assuming that Paige is only going to be tag champion for a very short amount of time until Nikki's ready to go, and then they'll probably feud. They'll probably feud Paige with Nikki Bella. Do we want to see that in 2026?
No. I actually think that maybe we won't even get that. Maybe we just see Paige handling her the belt, and then down the line doing some heel shit. I think Paige is the more likely to be a heel.
You think? Maybe. I mean, we'll have to see. I don't think she's coming back full time. I think she's going to be on a little bit like AJ schedule as well. I don't think she's going to be doing a full time schedule. I mean, just because she was given the all clear, she still has ongoing neck issues that will always be there. So she's always going to have to be really careful. And I doubt her body will be able to take a full time schedule. And it's going to be another woman like AJ Lee who's going to be part time. And that does lead me into something very quickly. Is there now, I said it to Alan when we were watching, that's now the Bellas who are kind of back part time. AJ Lee's now back part time. And now Paige is back part time. And I just thought to myself, this is like all the attitude, this is all the Diva era girls who left 10, 12 years ago. And they're all kind of coming back. All these kind of part-time contracts. And is it at the expense now of these younger girls who obviously are trying to get, like your Roxanne Perez, like your Liv Morgan, the ones who the spotlight should maybe be on now? Are they going to be penalized now because you've got all the kind of people from 12 years ago who, now that the women are treated better, they all want to kind of come back and have a little bit of taste of the way they obviously felt they should have been used when it was under Vince McMahon? Is that a bad thing for the women's division? I guess is what I'm asking. Is there too many now? Is this another woman from 10 years ago who's come back on a part-time schedule?
Yeah. Well, there's far too many these part-timers now. I think it's one of the reasons why Reigns has moved up. Obviously, we'll talk about him later, but because obviously you got AJ Lee, you got Paige. Lesnar worked a part-time schedule. I don't know what they're really going with. Why are you putting championships on part-time stars? Why? It doesn't elevate anything. I mean, it might make you anticipate their appearance, but for holding a championship, no. I've always hated part-time schedules.
Here's the thing for me, and I'm looking at it from a pure numbers perspective, right? They have the Women's Tag Team Championships. They have the United States Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, and the 2 main World Championships. So that's 5 championships they're trying to service. And I'm wondering, are they starting to realize we haven't got enough big name stars to kind of carry all this? Like, obviously, Becky now is probably operating below herself at the moment by holding the Intercontinental title, but they don't have enough high-quality mid-carders that they could say, we're going to find a way for Becky to drop the belt and go after the main championship again. And then they have so many people, they have so many at that level, aka Rhea, Charlotte, Alexa. You've named them all already tonight. And they can only put the main belt on two of them. So they're kind of left in with this kind of hodgepodge of stuff that they're trying to do with the rest of them. And they're getting these part-timers in for filler to bump out their roster. And as you said, maybe it's at the expense of some of these younger girls that are coming up. Like the Zarya one that was feuding with Sol Ruka. I think she was up and down between the main roster for about 2 years now. And now she's watching Paige, who's going to probably get the main spots that she might have gotten the benefit of over the next 6 or 7 months. And it's going to be kind of going, okay, I'm going to be in NXT again, and I've lost the person that I did my feud with. So what am I going to do now?
Yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act. You know, they've introduced more titles, as we know. The IC title, I think, is okay. I think Becky Lynch, because she's above the title, she has raised the general profile. The US title is completely worthless. The women's US title is completely and utterly a non-factor. It's completely worthless. So they're one for two because they haven't managed to give the same attention to the US belt as they had the IC. But let's move on. We've still got a whole night to cover after this, so let's move on. Or we will be here way too long. Up next, the Insta feud, probably the best technical match of the night, in my opinion. Gunther versus Seth Rollins should have been a much bigger deal than it was. First time in a long time. Apparently, I think Michael Cole did say that he wrestled once before, many years ago, maybe in NXT. But at least on the main roster, this is the first time I can remember them wrestling each other. And it should have been a bigger deal than it was. Two very talented guys. The match was good, as you would expect. Hard impact from Gunther. Seth Rollins, you know, was playing obviously the smaller guy. He's good at that stuff. There was just no story behind it. There's no reason for it to happen. Oh, Gunther's doing a favor for Paul Heyman. It didn't go any further than that. There was nothing more to it. So it was almost like it reminds me of when I remember Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, dare I say his name, many years ago, two of the best wrestlers on the roster. They had nothing for either one of them to do. They just threw him into the match. This reminded me of that. I thought to myself, this is Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, two of the best technical wrestlers on the roster. There's no story. They've just thrown them together just to have a good match. And that's fine if you want to do that on a weekly show. If you want to do that on a Raw, fine. If you want to do that on a lesser pay-per-view, okay, that's acceptable, I suppose. Don't do it on WrestleMania. You got nothing better for the EC to do?
Apparently not. I think they missed a trick here with Seth Rollins' entrance as well. I don't know why they didn't have these army of balaclava guys coming, you know, running down the aisle with him. So I think they kind of missed a trick with that one.
Yeah. Like I thought it was an odd comparative by Cole again, like bringing it into a Game of Thrones environment. It's clearly kind of more Mortal Kombat.
It was nothing to do with game. Yeah, I don't know what I think. I said to Alan, I don't know. I assume Michael Cole never watched any Game of Thrones. He just heard somebody talk about it because that was nothing to do with Game of Thrones.
Like I think this match was a case of these two going at it in the ring makes sense. Just not, as you said, in the way that they went about it. And it was kind of a case of, as you said, the favourite and blah, blah. But the best part of it probably was we got Breaker coming back in and you're kind of going, okay, if he was back,
yeah, I know.
would he been able to actually have the match against Seth and we wouldn't have had this nonsense with Gunther and we could have saved that for another night?
In an alternate universe, they would have had Breaker versus Rollins. And if they felt that those two couldn't have a 30-minute match because Breaker maybe had only just got back. Rollins obviously had been okay to go for a couple of weeks, but Breaker maybe it was really touch and go right to the end. Then what you do then, Rebel, you book a 10-minute match that ends with a DQ. I know it's not. I know there'd be complaints about that as well. I do get it, but that would be better if they had Rollins versus Breaker and then they have a shorter match, right? And then they can continue the feud later on once Breaker is a bit more healthy. But they could have still had a very basic match. Have Heyman get involved. Have Heyman cause a DQ 10 minutes in. If it's going to be in the middle of the card anyway, then so, I mean, it was a mid-card match. It was placed right in the middle of the show. It's a mid-card match. They placed it as a mid-card match. which you could say is disrespectful by itself because it should be given a much bigger platform. It was given WrestleMania, but they just threw it in the middle of it was just like a mid-card match for Gunther and Seth Rollins, two multiple-time world champions, to just be thrown together in the mid-card. Deserved more than that. So I would have gone with Breakker and Rollins. Make it a short match, have a DQ, have Heyman get involved, make it a DQ, and then you could put Gunther into something. I wouldn't have gone with Rey Mysterio, but maybe something like that. Gunther could have had a much better opponent, and it would have made a lot more sense, and you would have got two bigger matches than the match we got, which was just kind of throwaway. And Gunther won as we expected, really. Because as I said before earlier with Drew, Gunther's the most protected entity in the Federation. So
I'm glad he won.
Anything else? Anything else?
Yeah, other than Bron Breakker is he's shit at spears. That last one wasn't even a spear.
He missed it.
Yeah, missed him completely.
And you know, it was made worse. And I think we said this in the WhatsApp group during WrestleMania. The camera work and the angles, that was just one of many that they absolutely had made a hames of.
Yeah, they had some shoddy camera work throughout the two nights. It was not the best production. I guess that's what happens when you lose what's his face. Alan, what's the guy? Kevin Dunn. He was the master of that stuff, even though he had a bad reputation. But that's what he was there for. And I guess that there has been something lost when it comes to their production ever since. But we will move on. Like I say, we've still got a whole night to cover. We are nearly at the end of night one. The women's title match, Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vaquer. This was a big ball of nothing for me. Best part was Liv Morgan's entrance. I appreciate the dancing because she's a very attractive woman. I didn't appreciate the lip singing. I thought the lip syncing was embarrassing.
It was awful, wasn't it? It's her own bloody song. She can't even lip sync to it.
Yeah, it was. Whether or not, because they're in a stadium, Alan, whether or not there was a little bit of delay with the sound, I think that might have played the part in it. I don't know, but because it was a stadium, maybe she was half a second behind, and didn't realize. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's the only thing I can think of because there was some kind of a delay. But as a wrestling match, it was. Let's be honest. It was nothing. It was a Raw match, wasn't it? It was a Raw match. It was a match.
Yeah, this is opening contest on Raw.
Yeah,
all it was.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to be honest with you, the dancing part was grand in the entrance for Liv, but that song is terrible as a theme.
Yeah.
You cannot get a crowd going for you with that song. Like the Watch Me theme was infinitely better that you had before that. But yeah, I think as you said, they got the result. They took the belt off Vaquer. Thanks for coming. Move on. And that match just was kind of, I suppose, doubling down on how average night one was up to that point.
I think Stephanie Vaquer, I think you're going to see her career nosedive. And I've got nothing against the girl. I don't think she's particularly great at anything other than wrestling. And that maybe should be enough, but it's not in the WWE. It's not. She lacks the other stuff too much, I think, to really probably. I can only see her going one way. I think there's probably a heel turn in her future. Maybe she'll be more adept at that. I don't know. But I can't see her probably ever getting near that title again. I got to be honest with you. I think this has ended up being a spectacular failure. How much is it her fault? I don't know. But she was a very, very poor champion. I can't see her getting anywhere near that belt for a long time.
She's got touch with Lyra Vaquer, isn't she?
Lyra
Vaquer was Lyra was the Intercontinental champion for a while, wasn't she?
Yeah, I think she's.
And then since she lost it, she does nosedive. She's been stuck in some shitty tag team with Bayley.
Yeah, I don't know where she goes. I can see it. I can see a heel turn in her future. But whether or not that's going to be enough, I don't know. Liv Morgan, I think that you can tell. Like I said, I think last week they view her as the new Trish Stratus. She's a very, very attractive woman. She's pretty good promo, and she's decent enough in the ring. She's not top tier in the ring, but she's decent enough. So she's one of those girls who's got the whole package. She's got the three things you really need. She's decent enough in the ring. She can cut a good enough promo, and the most important thing, she's a very attractive woman. They can send her to these shows and do publicity. They can put her face on posters and stuff like that, and a lot of dudes are going to be like, "Who's that?" That's the way that it is. So, they view her in that way. So, Rebel, anything else you got to say about the women's match before we head to our fantastic main event, Cody versus Randy Orton?
Yeah, no, I think just the only thing to add, there was a lot of social media backlash in terms of the amount of time that they actually gave the women's matches in total across night one. I think they felt that the women's matches got rushed along, and based on the production, I'm sorry to say, but they probably went on too long. If they had a better storyline, better production, maybe we might have got something a little bit better. But I think it was a product of the matches that they set up, to be honest with you. The only other major thing in terms of the women, they finally addressed the fact of why Bianca Belair has been missing for so long. And let's face it, they just like they tried to tell us, oh, it's all to do with her finger. Like, come on, people are intelligent. Just say she's got personal matters, and you'd have kind of taken away this whole need for her to go out in front of WrestleMania and kind of go, yeah, I'm missing because I'm preggers. Good luck.
I don't know why they really felt the need to do it. I mean, I know that Naomi obviously recently got pregnant, and then she came out and vacated the title. But that was different. That was her explaining why she vacated the title. So that was obviously something that needed to happen. Why they felt the need? I mean, they just obviously wanted her on the show, I guess. But again, I don't know why. What did it add? I mean, what did it add to the show? I said this to Alan, like okay, personally, I'm happy for her. I'm sure she wanted the kid, her and Montez Ford. I'm sure they're happy. But what's this doing on WrestleMania?
Do you know
why?
For me, I think maybe it was two birds with one stone. They needed to address why she was missing because they did a bizarre kind of non-comment kind of outlook when people on social media, which they're clearly watching, started going, "Where's Bianca? Where's Bianca? Where's Bianca?" every second minute. And I think obviously John had minimal duties in terms of his hosting of WrestleMania. He had his opening, he had that kind of pre-main event segment on both nights. And I think they just ran out of ideas and just said, look, Bianca, go out and address the crowd, tell them that you're pregnant and you're going to be missing. Job done.
Yeah. Good luck to her. She'll be back probably in about, she probably won't be back till Royal Rumble next year, probably.
Someone will come back. Do you know?
That's true. That's true. Sometimes they don't want to leave the kid. You're right. That could be true too. Yeah.
Do you remember Ric Flair when he was alleged to have gotten that other wrestler knocked up, the Power of the Punch woman? She never came back.
Lacey Evans.
That's the one.
Yeah, and that's fair. Yeah. I think Becky Lynch mentioned it a little bit as well. That's one of the reasons why she didn't decide for a while if she wanted to come back, for that very reason. She didn't know if she could handle leaving, not being there for being a mother to the kid. Okay, we've delayed it long enough.
Main event.
Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes for the World Championship. None of us had we didn't have high expectations. We spoke about last week about the route they should have gone, how this should have been the easiest story in the world to tell. But they decided to try and get the celebrities involved. And they realized probably too late that the fans were rejecting it massively. So they came up with a way to get rid of Pat and Jelly before the match even started. So for most of it happened before the match started. So Pat McAfee attacks Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes, beats him off. That sounded wrong. Beats him back, and then puts him on a table. And then Jelly does his stuff, and then that's it. Pat McAfee's gone until the very end of the match. But the part that I don't understand, guys, I remember saying this to Alan the whole time. The psychology of this match was 100% backwards. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I swear to God that somebody must have got the roles mixed up. On the booking sheet, they must have put the Randy Orton was the babyface, because that's how this match went. Orton was the babyface. Orton was the babyface in this match. It's insane, and Michael Cole was doing everything in his power to say, "Oh, Randy Orton's injured. Randy Orton's so injured. Oh, Orton's injured. Orton's injured," doing his best to get sympathy for the heel. It's the most backward thing that I've ever seen when it comes to wrestling booking, and I'm still trying to get my head around it, guys. What were they going for? Explain to me. What were they going for here?
I don't think they knew. I'm going to make this very quick. They played the video that you said they should have played weeks ago, coming in before Cody's entrance. Great video, great bit of footage. Probably could have expanded it a little bit. They got rid of the two NPCs that had no business being involved in that match whatsoever. But as a match, it just, when you kind of talk about Randy Orton and Randy Orton matches, it just didn't hit the levels that you want. And I think considering the two people that they had, even as bored as I am of Cody Rhodes' shtick, they just completely and utterly missed the mark in their build-up. And I'd imagine if they had a time machine, they'd go back and they would have ran that video 3-4 weeks ago. They could still have had the voices side of it and had Randy kind of erring on the baby face, but the unhinged baby face. But no, they just didn't find their mark, and it kind of crowned off the disappointment that was night one.
It's one of the worst WrestleMania main events I've personally seen. Thank God that there is 2 nights. But if that was the actual, if you pretend for a second that there was no night 2, and that was your finish of your WrestleMania, that would be one of the worst WrestleMania main events I have ever had the displeasure of watching.
Be up there with WrestleMania 11, I guess.
Yeah, 11 was bad. WrestleMania 9 with the whole Hogan Brett Yokozuna, that was terrible as well. It would be up there. It would be in that conversation. The Miz versus John Cena, another one, and even Cena versus Cody last year because the Travis Scott bollocks. That is also up there. But this was up there with all of them. This is in that conversation as worst WrestleMania main events. It's in the top 5 probably. Thank God they had another night where they could, and they did redeem themselves, which we'll talk about. Anything else about night 1? Because I realise it's actually gone 8 and we still have got a whole night to cover. So,
couple of things I just want to say is I'm disappointed. I never got to see the Jelly Slam. Where was it? It didn't do the Jelly Slam on Pat McAfee like I was hoping, and I just don't understand the ending. The end of that match was chaos. I don't understand it. Pat comes running back with a neck brace on, with the referee down, and Pat's in the referee shirt.
It's silly.
Randy goes to the cover. 1-2. Cody kicks out. It wasn't a fast count from McAfee. He was just doing
It's not a ref. It wouldn't have counted anyway. He's not a ref.
Yeah, true.
It wouldn't have counted. What was the point?
Well, yeah, we can go on about rules when we get to night 2 in certain matches, but and then he gets it RKO'd, and then he turns around, gets crossroad by Cody, and that's the end of the match. What the hell? What was happening in that match?
I wonder, did something happen and they needed to do a quick fix to end it? I wonder, was Pat even supposed to ever come back out?
Oh, no idea.
I don't know very well because I'm not convinced they knew what they were doing. I'm not convinced they had any idea because the structure of that match defies wrestling logic. It defies all wrestling logic. That match.
It's like 2K made the match.
I know. I've still got no answer. I still don't know what they were going for. I can't get my head around it. I need people who can analyze wrestling better than me to tell me because I draw a blank by what they were going for. It makes no everything that I think I know about wrestling as a 35-year-old fan, whatever. None of it makes any logical sense to me, unless Cody was a heel, and he's not because he was not positioned as a heel. But Michael Cole, you could have told me otherwise. Michael Cole, if you don't watch that match and you just listen to the commentary, you tell me who's a heel in that match. Cody Rhodes is a heel in that match. Listen to Michael Cole. Cody Rhodes thumped him in the eyes. Cody Rhodes. Randy Orton gets busted open. Again, this is all backwards. Randy Orton gets busted open. Cody Rhodes go to work on the open cut. What? It doesn't. It defies wrestling logic. It defies. Not does it defy wrestling logic. It defies storytelling logic. Good guys and bad guys in films and everything like that. It defies the logic.
If we think about what happened with Cody last year, when he got low blowed by Cena because he wouldn't, attack Cena with a title or something like that. Maybe this time he thought, you know what? Maybe I should break the rules, or maybe I actually might win this time.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
And my final comment tonight one is, and they thought Road Dogg was the problem.
Oh, they got bigger problems than a DLWG. Okay, night 2, we're gonna have to try and speed up. I think, like I say, it's already gone past the hour. Night 2. Luckily, there's less matches and there's a lot of it's a short matches as well, other than the main event. Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar. In our prediction video, we had a little bit of a laugh and we all said, well, who's going to get the closest to how long the match is? And I think Alan had 6 minutes as the highest out of all of us, I think. So none of us thought this was going to go longer than 6 minutes. So it was as short as we thought it would be. I thought that maybe Oba would get into a bit more trouble than he did. It was more of a one-sided victory than I thought. Yeah, Brock hit him with a couple of Germans, but there was only one F5. I expected multiple F5s, but there was only one. And he more or less gets up from it. I don't like that. I understand it, especially if this was one of Brock's last matches, which it looks like it is. If not his last, then there'll be one more, probably. So he did everything he could to put the kid over, and I can appreciate that as a veteran. That is what you're meant to do. That's a time-honored tradition. I still think that maybe he should have done a bit more damage to Oba, though, because I want to see a bit more of Oba on the defensive. I need to see that personally if I think he's got any long-term. Because I'm scared he's gonna be a Goldberg. I'm scared that once you've seen his stick, as soon as he has to lose, and he will have to lose at some point. He's got to lose at some point. I know he's lost in NXT, but I mean on the main roster, he has to have adversary at some point. I'll be very scared about him when he has to face that, because right now I've seen nothing from him that suggests to me that he can do that part of the business. We'll see. But I'm okay with Obafemi winning, but I would have liked him to have been in a bit more trouble. What about you guys?
My bit's very short on this, a bit like the match. I think it was the right result in terms of what they were trying to build. I'm not sure if Oba realized that Brock was going to end it that fast, because I think he was expecting a kick out or something to happen for when he did the finishing sequence. I can confirm that he does know how to go longer in that he had matches in NXT that he was in trouble. So hopefully he can kind of develop that on the main card. But I'm not sure that Brock told Triple H that he was going to put the boots in the ring on night 2. I think he just did not want to put over Gunther. I think it was a case of, I'm doing one, I prefer Oba. Let the kid have a chance after he gets something off me. He needs it. Gunther doesn't. And he just said, see us, I'm done.
I heard it was about the match length. Brock wanted a more competitive match. He didn't mind, the result, but I think he wanted a more competitive match. And when Trips turned around and went, no, this is a squash. You're going to be squashed out there. That's when troubles brewed.
Interesting.
Because he threw up that cross signal, didn't he? And apparently behind the scenes, that means I'm off script. And Heyman realized it, because Heyman was genuinely shocked.
Yeah.
When he threw up that cross, Heyman's like, "What are you doing?"
Well, Brock has been known. If you listen to some of the stories, not just Matt Riddle, because Matt Riddle, I'm not sure I believe a word Matt Riddle says, but other people have said that Brock Lesnar has that ability because of who he is. That if he goes off script, he just kind of does, and people just kind of they might reprimand him afterwards, but it's just like, well, what are they going to do? It's Brock Lesnar.
Yeah,
exactly. He's made so much money out of matches. I mean, what's he got, $5 million a year or something for 2, 3, 4 appearances tops?
Brock Lesnar does not need a WWE. WWE needed Brock Lesnar. And when you've got that kind of a relationship, then Brock can get away with more or less, maybe not everything, but more than anyone else can. So if he wants to go off script, he might get a little bit of a telling off, but he won't go any further than that.
Not to mention, he could legitimately kill anyone in
that too. Who's going to be the one? You think Triple H with his bad heart is going to get in the face of Brock Lesnar? I don't think so. Okay, so Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar. It was what it was. Obafemi is going to have the next 6 months for Obafemi is going to be make or break, in my opinion. We'll see. Okay, so the cluster truck match, in my opinion, the 6-man ladder match, IC title. It was a spot fest match. There were some very nice spots, especially the Mexican Destroyer on the ladder from JD. That was nice. That was a highlight of the match, I think. Yeah. And Javon Evans, despite me not thinking he's got that much other than the high spots, he obviously very, very talented, athletic dude, and he hit the move on Rusev. Rebel, you told me that you think Rusev had to kind of help him out a little bit with that move, didn't you? I remember you saying in the chat.
Yeah, I felt that he was looking at it and Rusev was like, he's not getting there. So he kind of leaned forward so the connection would be made. I think he actually came off the ladder because I felt Rusev was in the air before Javon got to the meeting point. So obviously that was a case of a veteran kind of reading the room and kind of going, okay, the kid's trying something major here, but he's not going to get to me. I need to make this happen. And he did. But again, the camera work probably exposed that he done it, unfortunately, for them. And they actually replayed it, which kind of shocked me because you don't expose something that was covered up and probably covered up well in terms of the live crowd. You just kind of go, right, it happened. We'll work with the kid in the background. What surprised me, though, was we thought that Rusev was in there to be the big man that was catching everyone and doing all the kind of, big guy stuff. But Penta is actually nearly as big as him, I thought, when I saw him kind of nose to nose.
See about Rusev, I think I said this to Alan during the match. Rusev is so much smaller than he used to be. I remember Rusev during his first run, Rebel, if you remember, I wouldn't say he was vastly overweight, but he was just bulky. He was just really bulky.
Stocky guy, wasn't he?
Stocky and bulky, and he's not. He's really slimmed down. He's lost so much of that bulk. So yeah, whilst he's still bigger than the majority of them. Yeah, you're right. He's not. In my mind, maybe I was thinking he was still the massive Rusev, but he's not. He's a much slimmer version of him. I mean, you're right. He wasn't really that much bigger, really, than Penta, really. So yeah. Any other thoughts, Alan? I know Javon Evans. We both been critical about him. I don't mind the spot fest. I can take the spot fests, but I do get bored of them fast. I can take maybe one per show. Is that like my limit? And it was fine for what it was, but maybe for me, I've just seen so many spots as a veteran wrestling fan that a lot of them have lost. You can only see something so many times before the importance wears thin on me. Like I said, I care more about story nowadays. But how did you feel about it overall, Alan? Did you still enjoy it like you did the Hardys and the Edge and Christian stuff? Because that's obviously what it's going to be.
Well, yeah, that's the bar, isn't it? that's the bar. The Hardys, Dudleys, Edge and Christian, they set the bar for the TLC matches.
Yeah,
and ladder matches in general. And I think, like you said, once you've seen one spot fest, you've seen them all. Other than that Mexican Destroyer on the ladder on JD, nothing really impressed me. It was just them just doing flippy shit throughout the whole match, doing the typical stuff. People just to clear the ring, people are like gassed after like 1 minute or something, lying on the outside, so the others can get on with what they have to do actually in the ring. I think Rusev told G-Von off because Rusev's trying to set the ladder up, and I think G-Von's trying to attack him, and then Rusev actually lashes out at him and says something about stupid boy or something.
Really? Oh, I didn't see that.
You see that? No, yeah. Rusev was literally trying to wedge a ladder with another one and rest it against the turnbuckle.
Kuva in the chat, big up Kuva. He agreed with you, Rebel. Says he noticed that too. Rusev knew the rookie wasn't going to make it and had to meet the jump.
Yeah, and actually the other thing with Rusev is he took a fair whack when he went through the ladder at the back of the head as well, if you remember, when he went through it. And I suppose that match also did prove one other thing about the memory of wrestling fans. They were chanting Rusev Day during that match.
They was, within yes.
Well, I think though it just goes to show that TKO and WWE need to kind of credit the memory of wrestling fans and kind of not try and slip bullshit past us.
I don't know how happy Rusev would be to hear those Rusev Day chants, because I've heard stuff afterwards saying that he wasn't exactly in love with it, and he kind of wants to leave that gimmick behind. He's trying to be, if you haven't noticed, he's trying to be a much more kind of serious. His character in AEW was called the Redeemer, so he's tried to bring that kind of same character. He's not really the Bulgarian brute anymore with Lana. He's tried to leave that persona behind. He's trying to be like this more serious, I guess, kind of killer wrestler rather than the whole Ivan Dragu ripoff that he was with Lana. So I don't know how happy personally he will be to hear that. Who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong, but he might be thinking, actually, I'm trying not to be this character anymore. I'm trying to do completely new stuff. But
yeah.
Last thing I'll say is I'm old school. I like my IC title to be generally 1-on-1 with a proper story and an importance on the belt. The IC title for me used to be it's the workman's title. And it's got a very cherished legacy in my head. I don't really want to see it defended in a multi-man match with no build. So whilst the match was fine, I didn't hate the match. I would like to have seen a high profile for the IC title, a proper feud with normally two guys. Doesn't have to be two, could be a couple, I suppose, 3 or 4 maybe, but still just more importance with a proper build. I think they could have easily had Balor versus Dom be for the IC title. For me, that would have made more sense, personally. But we'll get to that match in a sec. Anything else, Rebel, before we move on?
Not in that particular match, no. I just suppose, like, as you said, it kind of got devalued by the fact that they just completely and utterly screwed up the build by putting up a poster of the match and having Penta refer to the ladder match by accident before the even qualifiers were done, and it was just like, it was always going to be a disappointment when the story wasn't behind it.
Yeah, they just thought to themselves, "Oh, we need a spot fest match. There's no other spot fest matches really on the card. We need a multi-man spot fest match. So we'll get 6 guys who can all work, which they all can. They can all wrestle well enough. They can all do the high spots. So we just throw them together, and that's it. A little bit like the Gunter versus Rollins match. Really, it was thrown together. Really. Up next, Trick Williams versus Sami Zayn, US title. This is pretty much the only prediction I got wrong the whole weekend. I am still a bit surprised that they had Zayn drop this title so fast after just winning it when he's in the midst of turning heel. So I was expecting a kind of double turn, and maybe we kind of got the double turn, but not really. It wasn't a proper turn. It's just like the fans are cheering Trick, the fans are booing Sami Zayn, and we'll just go with it. Sami Zayn obviously was being sneaky in the match, but that's what I thought. That's why I thought Sami Zayn was going to win, because he needed to do that one last thing to make him a heel. He needed to win this match via cheating, and then that will have solidified him as a heel and Trick as a face. But they didn't go that route. They had the celebrity. I can't remember the celebrity's name, Alan.
Little Yachty.
Little Yachty. Instead, they had him getting involved. And again, I don't need these celebs, so I don't need that stuff. So I was surprised at the finish. The match was okay. I didn't think it was amazing. I think Trick Williams is still really green. Sami Zayn is an incredibly good wrestler. Well, especially when given the right opponent. So I wasn't in love with this match, and I don't really understand the booking of the match. I would have had Zayn retain and really push him as a heel and have Trick be the babyface chasing, and then maybe at Backlash, maybe even the show after Backlash, then you give Trick Williams the win as a proper face against the proper heel Zayn. In a minute, it's kind of like, is Trick a face? He's not really a face character-wise, but he is a face because the fans cheer him. So it's like, but he's still in that. They're both still in that kind of middle lane. I assume Zayn's going to do something to try and get the title back. I'm assuming the feud will probably continue, and maybe Zayn will turn heel and attack him, and that'll be that. But I would have thought they would have done a double turn during the match, and they didn't. They didn't really go for it. That's what I thought. What about you guys?
Go on, brother.
I'm going to be very quick. I'm using hindsight here. Obviously, we'll be talking briefly maybe about Raw for 30 seconds at the end, but I'm wondering, does Sami dropping the belt have anything to do with what we saw kind of towards the end of Monday Night Raw? I'm just going to leave that sit there and float there for you to consider. Again, like Tequila, I thought Yachty had no business being out there. he didn't add anything to it. There is times and places for celebs, and particularly celebs that can actually do a bit of work and can add value. But I'm going to be very critical about one thing, and that is, once again, an entrance. Look, the Trick Williams entrance gets called interaction, it gets called engagement, but I do not need to see a shot of his legs on the spinning platform. Like, you could have had that camera just a monocle higher, and you don't need to see the platform, and it changes your perception of that entrance. And I think they need to stop showing the platform, and Bobby Roots was better because it was glorious.
Yeah. But Bobby Roode had a great entrance. He did. Okay. I think I'm going to let Rebel talk about this next one more than me or Alan. I think his boy Finn Balor, the Demon, returned. This is Dominic Mysterio very quickly for me, and then I'll leave it all to Rebel. I wouldn't say I expected more. It was another short match, but this is the story of the whole show, other than the night 2 main event. The matches were all too short. So the match was a bit too short. Balor won as expected. He had to win. If he would have lost this match, then that really would be it. I don't know. Was I expecting maybe a bit of a different version of the Demon? I don't know. He looks like the old Demon to me. I thought, could he have done, Rebel? And I'll ask you this. Could he have done a bit more to make the Demon a newer version rather than just kind of, he's the same as he was before?
I agree with you there. I thought the Demon should be a lot darker, maybe a lot more Bray Wyatt-esque in terms of being kind of a more delved into the horror side of things. I think the streamers were a bad idea in the entrance. Again, maybe having the ramp lined with those, the staff that he had at the end where he was kind of twirling the head with the spikes out of it. Maybe had the whole ramp lined with those spaced out, but it was the same Demon. Like, again, we still remember that Demon dropped 2 losses, one to Roman Reigns and one to Edge.
Yeah.
And like, Finn, again, is probably someone that's been a bit of a common theme here, actually, taking far too many losses and far too many pins over the last year and a half. Actually, ever since he went into Judgment Day, really, he's been taking far too many L's. And I think, like, even the way that the storyline is kind of projecting for him, we're going to have another medium to long-term mess of him and JD, him and Dominic, and it's just like, come on, just put it behind them. But I don't think they know what they want to do with Finn, and they're throwing him back in the Demon just so that they can kind of put a bit of positivity to him, give him a few more wins. But I think the only thing that saves Finn Balor is getting away from trips, getting away from WWE, because they just don't value him.
Alan, do you agree with me and Rebel? Was it a little bit underwhelming, or was it what you expected? Could he have freshened it up, considering that, as Rebel said, the Demon character did lose his last 2, so maybe a little bit of a slight. I'm not saying he had to change the whole look, but maybe a slightly different look, something a bit like this is new and improved version now, kind of thing.
I thought he was going to get something, because I know he showed up in AAA not long ago. I thought he was going to have a kind of like I would say a luchador look, but maybe a Mexican look slightly. That's what I was kind of expecting. Because apparently he pitched this Mexican version to the Undertaker, and Undertaker loved it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, whether that's true or not, but I read it somewhere. Because he was like, should I really disturb the Undertaker with this? When he actually plucked up the courage to go and talk to him, he says, "I want to do this in the WrestleMania match," and the Undertaker said, "Yeah, love it, do it." That's why I was kind of disappointed, but he just looked like the Demon, regular old Demon. But no, it was fine. I didn't mind it. I think it was pretty cool.
I mean, we'll have to see. It looks like it looks like his feud, based on Raw, it looks like the feud with the Judgment Day is going to continue, whether we want it to or not. It looks like it is going to continue, which makes me slightly concerned that they might have Dominic actually going over him in the end, because we know that they do actually quite value Dominic. So I don't know if they'll want Dominic to take another loss to Balor. I'm not sure. And if Dominic does beat Balor, then I'm not sure. Balor needs to win a feud because, as Rebel just correctly said, I don't think Balor's won a feud since he joined the Judgment Day.
No, he hasn't.
I don't think he's won a feud. I'm not saying he hasn't won any matches, but when it comes to winning the ends of feuds, he lost to Edge, right? And that was the big one that comes to my mind. He lost to Edge as the Demon. So I can't remember the last time Balor won a feud. He lost the feud to CM Punk earlier this year. So all he does is lose feuds. There's a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done. It's not going to be a quick fire fix. But I do agree with Rebel. I think New Japan would be looking very rosy for Finn. He might think AEW, but I personally wouldn't want to see him in AEW. I think he'd get lost in the shuffle. But I think Japan would be him going back to Japan. I think would be a good idea personally.
Even something like TNA combined with a New Japan could be something interesting for him, because I think TNA would treat him as a superstar.
Oh yes, they certainly would. Yeah. If he went to TNA, he'd be by far their biggest star. 100%. Yeah. Okay, down to the last two matches then. Rhea Ripley versus that bitch, Jade Cargill. We all thought that Jade was going to retain, other than Com. Com was the only one who got this right. He's not here to brag about it, but I'll call it as it is. He was the only one who thought Rhea was going to win. I'm quite surprised. I suppose the reason why I was surprised is because when I thought that they were saving it for Bianca Belair to feud with Jade. Now, obviously, we found out on night one that's the reason why. So maybe that should have been like, oh, well, she's going to drop it then, because the Bianca Belair feud isn't going to happen anytime this year. So they maybe they felt they had nowhere else to go with Jade Cargill, because she is green as grass in the ring. Not sure she can be relied upon to carry feuds, so she's a bit of a lame duck champion. She's got nobody to wrestle. With Rhea Ripley's a much more accomplished wrestler in every sense of the word. She's going to be over. She's moved across to SmackDown, as we found out on Raw, so she's going to be working with a whole new bunch of women. So I guess for Rhea Ripley, it makes sense when you think about it now. But at the time, I was surprised. I was like, really? They're just taking the title off her already? I thought she was the golden girl, Rhea Ripley. Jade Cargill, but apparently not.
All I want to really say about this one is I like the finish. I thought the finish was actually quite inventive, turning the Jaded into the Riptide.
Yeah, it was good.
I think it was a good transition. It's about time they actually transitions that moves into other moves. So you don't see it that often in the new WWE model now. Normally it's just hit a finisher without any transitions. So that was good. That's one part is a highlight.
It's probably Jade's best match. I mean, that doesn't say much. The bar's not high, but it probably was her best match. I can't think of a match that she's been in that's been better. So credit for Rhea Ripley for carrying that load, I suppose.
Yeah, she carried the baggage.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's probably people like Sheamus could probably get us to a match and make us look $1 million. Because they're just that good at their jobs and working, and they will identify where they can say, right, Rebel, run at me. I know you can do this right. And they will sell the shit out of it for you. But you've also got someone like Rhea Ripley, who's very good in ring. And I think when it comes to the Storm in the Teacup, aka Jade Cargill, it's the equation again. She has the chiseled look, something that a lot of women's wrestlers don't have. She looks $1 million in her gear. They give her a great team, but everything else is just not there. And I think they realized they were down a cul-de-sac with her, and their solution was Rhea Ripley, and it opens up the division again.
They need somebody who can defend the title on a regular basis. Because I think Jade Cargill Rebel defended it twice in 6 months. I think she won it from Tiffany Stratton, and then she defended it. I think she's honestly defended it twice. her whole reign, she had 2 defenses. At least on TV, she had 2 defenses.
They
didn't trust her in the ring. They didn't trust her in the ring.
And she'll probably get a rematch, just to kind of close the circuit, the next PLE, or maybe on Friday night, and then that will be the end of her. I think she'll probably be relegated to the US title, and then ultimately, when her contract expires, she'll be gone.
Yeah, I think they might realize that some people just aren't natural. She's got, as you said, she's got the cosmetics you need. She hasn't particularly got the promo either. But if she hasn't got the fundamentals, then you're looking at another great Cali. You're looking at another Giant Gonzalez. You're looking at one of these guys who just don't have the aptitude for it. They might have the look for it, but they don't have the aptitude for it. And Vince McMahon's not there anymore to persevere as much as maybe Triple H will when it comes to guys who don't have this part of the skill set. Vince McMahon would put up with it for Great Khali. He would put up with it for he would find ways to kind of around it. Triple H, I think, is less likely to do it. He won't have the patience that Vince McMahon has for these freaks. For these kind of freaks, for lack of a better word, right? For these kind of giant characters, which you get in wrestling. I don't think Triple H has got the patience to try and get them to learn, because sometimes they never get. Omos is another example, right? I'm not saying she's actually probably not as bad as Omos, but it's a good example. It's somebody who's got a freak look about them, but it hasn't got the hand-to-eye coordination, hasn't got just the natural ability, and some people don't. She hasn't got the timing. She hasn't got stuff like that. She hasn't got the psychology. She hasn't got the timing. And sometimes some people can't. They can't learn. Sometimes some people will never get it. I think she's one of them.
I think you raise a good point, because you mentioned Almas, and they had a very easy route out of Almas because Obafemi came along, and he was everything that they wanted Almas to be. Whether he continues on his upward trajectory, we'll wait and see. But they had an exit strategy. It was like, okay, we don't need Almas anymore. We have Obafemi. And I think when you're looking at Jade Cargill, they're probably kind of going, maybe we don't need her. We have Lash Legend. If we can develop her, maybe she can surpass Jade Cargill within the first couple of months of her career, and then elevate over the next year and a half, 2 years.
But you got to remember that Jade Cargill was brought in on a big contract. If they would have brought her into NXT on a small contract, they might say to themselves, "Well, we don't mind waiting 5 years. We don't mind her going to NXT for 5 years, and maybe persevering with her." Not when they gave her the contract. They brought her in to use her right away. So they're not going to have the patience to wait for her to see if there's a chance that she can pick some of this stuff up. And also, she's actually had 3 years now. She was in AEW for over a year and a half, lost one match the whole time, and was terrible in AEW. So even though she still is rookie-ish, this is not like her first year now. She's up to like year 3 or 4. And she hasn't shown any noticeable signs of. She's no real better now than she was in AEW. That's the worrying thing, and they probably realised that.
Do you know, that contract that she's on is a bit like what the Miz felt from Danhausen. It was a punch in the dick.
Pretty much. Speaking of Danhausen, Rebelhausen's done a nice segue. We won't spend long on it because we are now up to the main event, which I think is going to be something we want to talk about. Did you enjoy the Danhausen skit, Alan and Rebel, with Cena?
Go on, Al. Take it away.
I'm going to pick up on something because Michael Cole said something which I thought was a bit un-PC, and I learned this from South Park.
Yeah.
When you saw the little people, that was that preluded to Danhausen appearing on his Danhausen mobile or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Michael Cole used the word midgets.
Yep.
And I thought that's not very PC. You meant to call them little people. And South Park taught me that. And the thing is, Michael Cole said it again. He said it about twice. Midgets. Yep. So Michael Cole, what are you doing?
Nobody corrected him.
No one corrected him.
Gorilla didn't correct him.
No,
Wade Barrett didn't correct.
Yeah, Wade Barrett. Sorry, Corey Graves wasn't there. Wade Barrett didn't correct him. No. But that segment was exactly what I thought it was going to be, a complete throwaway comedy sketch. I did like the way you hit the 5-knuckle shuffle. Yeah. Mind you, I think he's done it just like Cena did. Cena missed every time. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the part that I don't really understand, and WWE does this sometimes. I'm no massive fan of Kit Wilson, right? But no one can be now because they had John Cena say, "Who are you again? Why?"
Yeah.
Explain to me how that does help anyone. I'm not a Kit Wilson fan, right? So it's not like it's the end of the world for me. But I was thinking to myself, you're literally you're destroying him before he's got a chance. You've just told the world that he's a loser. You've just told them all.
That's Cena for you.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Cena loves burying people, so he's he's come back to host, and he just for I don't know 5, 6, 7 minutes of screen time, he can't help but bury someone. That golden shovel is always with him, no matter what he does.
Yep.
R.I.P. Kit Wilson's career.
I think they missed one opportunity though. They missed an opportunity to get Hornswoggle back out there, but that's beside the point. But yeah, no, we have seen Cena end careers with one word before. It's been done. But I think for me, the big thing out of that was we managed to see Danhausen break John Cena because he broke character. It was clear as eggs or eggs. I think he even broke Miz. It was basically a breakfast. And for Danhausen, that was probably big because that means he can do that role and they'll be able to find ways to utilize him a bit like R-Truth.
I quite like Danhausen. I think he's actually a very charismatic guy. As long as I don't mind it with characters like the Miz has become a joke character, so there's no damage done there. My always concern is if you start doing it with guys I care about who are meant to be serious, then I have a problem with it. Miz isn't meant to be serious. Kit Wilson certainly isn't meant to be serious, and John Cena is no longer meant to be serious. So I'm okay with it being involved with those three guys, to be honest with you. But if he would have come out there and done it, if he would have come out there and cursed during the Roman Reigns CM Punk match, I'd be livid. Let's put it that way.
But you can find ways to have him engage with the top talent without having to do the curse thing and all the shtick that goes with it. Like if he's going to be a comedic character, he's going to need to find those levels to his game where he can be, do the R-Truth kind of thing, where he engages with a top talent like a Brock Lesnar, causes him to break, and then takes his F5. That kind of thing.
Yes, R-Truth is good at that, and if they utilize him in the same way as R-Truth, then I think he's got a role on the show. Like I say, I quite like him because I've seen his stuff before. I've watched videos of him and CM Punk reviewing comic books. He's a very charismatic guy. He's a funny guy, so I have no problem with him personally. He's very good at what he does. It's just he just has to be utilized in the right role with the right other characters as well. Okay, well, it's nearly 20 to 9, so wow, this is going really long. We are going to cover the main event, and then we'll see if we can cover Raw as well. We might not have enough time to cover Raw, but let's cover the main event very quickly. It's been called one of the greatest WrestleMania main events ever. I don't think it's quite that. It's because it stood out so much because everything else was so shite. I think if you do compare it to other WrestleMania main events, some of the classics, I don't think it's up there. I do think it is probably the best match of the year in the WWF. The only one that comes close maybe is the Punk versus Balor match in Dublin. That's the only match I think comes close to it personally this year. I despise the result. I can't stand the result. I would have much preferred a heel turn from one of them. I would have accepted a Reigns heel turn with the Usos getting involved. I would have accepted a CM Punk. Usos help CM Punk. Both of those storylines would have made sense to me. They could have gone either way. They decided to not do any interference. I can understand that because there's been so much backlash to interference over the past lots of WrestleManias that I guess they knew they couldn't fuck with it. They couldn't have fuckery in this one. They knew that they couldn't afford to have fuckery. So they did the predictable thing, and Reigns has won the belt. I'm not happy about the result. It was a very good match. Storytelling was really good. It was slow paced. It wasn't really a finisher fest, though they both did hit more than one finisher, and they hit each other's finisher. But I think it was done in a good enough way, and there was enough normal moves in between. It felt like a proper fight. And I said this to you guys earlier in the chat. I want my wrestling to look like simulated fighting. That's why I can't handle too many flips. I don't mind the occasional flip, but if it's too much, I lose my sense of disbelief. Reigns and Punk, and I'll give Reigns credit as well because it takes two to tango, put together a match that that had an old school element to it. It had good psychology, trading submissions. It had near falls. It had good storytelling. That's all I want. Even if I don't like the result, it had very good storytelling. It's why I think CM Punk is still one of the best. Not because he's got the best technical wrestling ability, because he doesn't. Not because he's got the flashiest moveset, because he doesn't. But he is one of the best, if not the best, at least in the WWF, at storytelling. In-ring, he's got the promo as well, but in particular, in-ring storytelling, which is the hardest skill to learn, I think. And it's why somebody like Javon Evans, I'm keep busting the kid's chops, but until he learns stuff like that, he's never going to be anything to me. I'm not saying he can't. He's a kid. He's 22 years old. Maybe in 10 years' time, he'll be great and he'll have great psychology. Maybe so. Who knows? But that is what I look for. And this match was for me, even though I despised the result. What did you guys think of it?
Well, I think the match ended about 5 minutes into it, didn't it? When Reigns used the steel steps on CM Punk. Blatant, right in front of the referee, hits him with the steel steps. Referee, call the bell. That's a disqualification right there.
Yeah, if that was a match on Raw, that ends the match. That's the DQ ending to the match. Yeah, there was liberties taken. I can't defend that one, Alan. I didn't have an answer for you when it happened, and I don't have an answer for you now.
Blatant disqualification. So as far as I'm concerned, CM Punk's still the world champion.
Well, I'm going to put this to you, Alan, on the steel chair thing. We've seen in non-DQ matches for years, though, people being thrown into the steel steps and not being a DQ. So is there a difference between being thrown in and yeeted into the steps and having the steps yeeted at you?
Yeah, I think so. Because the steps are technically an inanimate object.
Fair.
I think
if you're thrown into them, it's more of you're being thrown into an obstacle. Whereas if you're actually having something thrown at you, that's a more of a weapon.
If you swing something, I think that is a DQ. I think it's a very thin line. If you throw something into something that's stationary, that's different. I mean, you can make an argument that putting somebody on a table and going through a table, is that a DQ? It's a difficult one, isn't it? If you put somebody through a table, then you climb on the top rope and then you elbow drop them through a table, which happens often. Should that be a DQ? It's an interesting one because you're purposely doing it, but the table is stationary, but you are still technically using it as a weapon. It's a difficult one. Some of them, but the steel chair, if you're swinging something, then that probably should be a DQ.
True.
It's a difficult one though.
Can I just take us back to prior to the match starting? And the two entrances were absolutely fantastic. They actually hit money on both of them. Roman's was outstanding. Obviously, he had his family come up on the screen, and the kind of a cappella kind of music that they had kind of leading into his return of the Bloodline OTC team. But hearing Mysteria was absolutely unbelievable. Yeah. And I think as much as it disappointed me that he didn't go all the way to the ring with it, they actually did it great because he was literally standing on the ramp before Cult of Personality hit. And it was probably the one match where they hit home runs with both entrances.
And it felt, and another thing, Rebel, quickly, we've discussed how most of WrestleMania this year felt like watching a Raw. That match didn't. That match had a big fight feel to it. Credit to both men. You know, I can't just say it was just Punk. Punk's a superior promo, but Reigns did his part in it. So credit to both men for generally having a good build. Not a perfect build. We know that wasn't perfect, but you compare it to the other builds. This is what I mean by stuff has got to be relative, right? You compare it to the other builds, and it was amazing, right? Because most of the builds this year were terrible. So it was significantly better than we'll use Cody and Randy as a great example, right? Look at the difference in builds between the two world title matches alone. So this match had the big fight feel to it, whereas most of WrestleMania didn't. So I appreciated that because I don't think that appears enough in wrestling. And it doesn't have to be a WrestleMania thing. You can have big match fields in other shows, but it's all about the build. It's all about the long-term storytelling and the build, which for some reason WWE have really lost their way on most of those areas. So I appreciate the fact that this felt like a big match, and that matters to me. What about you guys? Did you feel that, or am I talking rubbish? Is it only me who felt that?
No, it definitely had a big match feel. The crowd was really invested in this. Obviously, thanks to Punk promos the last couple of weeks. I mean, not so much Roman's, because we know Roman's is not great on the mic, hence why he had Paul Heyman with him for like 3 years. But it had that big match feel, and finally, after like 12 matches previous, this felt like WrestleMania finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you there as well. Yeah, no, you saw two people that were giants of the industry, and based like what we expected Cody and Randy to be. It should have been more akin to what we saw with Punk and Reigns. You were kind of engaged with the match and everything that was happening in it. I agree with your point about how with the two kind of troll kitchen sink matches that they had with the last couple of years with interference, they kind of had to keep it clean because I think they just overdid the interference side of things in the last 2 or 3 WrestleManias. Obviously not with Punk and but with Reigns, obviously he was the beneficiary of all that, and The Rock and all the rest of it. But I thought, as you said, they told the story from bell to bell. And even the kind of way that Punk went out, you were like, okay, I can believe this. I can see why. Now, the victory was there. He hit the GTS. It was 1, 2, 3. CM Punk wins. But he kind of did collapse perfectly. And Reigns, to his credit, didn't insta get back up. He also kind of gave the audience, yes, Punk took me to the edge. I needed a moment to take my breath, gather myself, hit my finish. I don't particularly like Reigns' spear. I'll be honest with you, I think it's a bit clunky. But then, who does a good spear? We probably talk about that another night.
Not many.
His Superman punch probably is cleaner. As much as it's kind of video gamey, it's a lot cleaner in terms of the way he delivers it. So maybe he needs to just kind of move away from the spear. I know it's kind of more kind of heritage, like in terms of the way that they're trying to give over the Samoan heritage to the audience, but I just don't think it's crisp enough. But you did touch on one thing that I would have a concern, and I'd be interested to get your views after we finish talking about the main event. A Roman Reigns bloodline without Paul Heyman as the mouthpiece. But I might save that for another night. Whatever you're feeling yourselves there, Tequila.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a lot more to say, especially on the Raw. I don't particularly like the fact the bloodline just seems to be back. It feels like a rerun. It feels like I described it to you guys in the chat. It's like it's like when WCW used to have the NWO keep reforming. They come across a faction that did well, and then they run out of ideas, and they've got to keep bringing the faction back. They did it with DX, kept on bringing DX back, NWO, and sometimes you just need to move on. And seeing the fact that we're back to the bloodline, I think for the future, I'm not interested. I've seen that story. The only difference is, like you said, Rebel, is that they're baby faces. That's the difference. The difference is that they're now going to be a babyface faction, even though Roman Reigns still acts like a bloody heel, doesn't act like a babyface at all, has not changed his character. And some people might say, well, that's consistent, and that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But it is a heel character. He is a heel character, and that's fine. But if he's being positioned as babyface, it's kind of like, I don't know. We can talk about Raw if you want, or we can leave it. I do realize it is 10-9. So we can talk about it, but if people have got to go, then we can end it with just the WrestleMania part. What do you guys think?
Well, there wasn't really much to say about Raw, really, other than the post-Mania Raw is always meant to be something you look forward to.
Yeah,
there was, you get returns, and you get fallout from the Mania show. There was nothing. You had a couple of people brought up from NXT, and that was it. A tease of Cody versus Punk for a future event. Jacko Fatu's now on Raw. He wants a title shot against Reigns at Backlash. That was it. That was the show, and I thought, wow, Thank God I was doing other things. I had it on the background because if I actually sat down and watched that shit, I would have been fuming. I thought myself, I've not learned anything from Mania.
The fact that Roman's working with another cousin, I think to myself, you know what, nepotism is still very much alive. I just thought, I thought to myself, thought Roman Reigns, this must be a cushy job for Roman Reigns and his family because this bloodline storyline elevated the Usos. It brought in Solo Sikoa. I mean, Solo Sikoa's dropped off the face of the earth now, but for a while he was an important guy. And all these Samoan, all his family, he brings in all these family members, and they're all given these prominent fixtures. And just like the CM Punk promo said, that's why I was so entertained by Punk's promo. The wrestlers have to work their asses off. They're not given these prominent roles. But if you're related to one of the Samoans, you're hot-shotted. And Jacob Fatu, I've got no problem with the guy. I don't think he's particularly ready for the main event. But he's being hot-shotted. And you're not telling me that this wasn't because Roman said he wanted to work with him. Of course he did. Of course he did. Roman Reigns is the big dog in more than just the character. He gets what he wants, just like Brock Lesnar. He chooses his own. He's got the main power. He does. So he's choosing to elevate a family member.
I would say one thing that I'm hopeful for is if they do have Jacob engaging with Roman, that we get him back to being a heel because he's much more edgy and dark when he's a heel, and that's the only positive I think to maybe have him engage a babyface Roman is that we might get the heel back, and that fixes a lot of problems with his character.
Yeah, if he ends up joining the Bloodline, which I hope isn't the, because obviously they're going to have a match. We know they're going to have probably at Backlash. They're going to have a match. I hope it doesn't end up being that Jacob lose. Jacob's not winning that belt, right? So he's not going to win. So if he loses to Roman Reigns, I hope he doesn't just say I acknowledge you and then joins them. I hope that doesn't happen. I fear that it may, but I hope that it doesn't, because I don't want to see this Bloodline. I've already seen it. I don't want to see the same. I mean, I'm scared to death that we're going to get another 2 or 3 year title reign, and don't think that it's not possible. Because if Roman said to them, "All right, I'm going to come back," like he suggested that he did on the after show, if he said to them, "Yeah, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do full time again, or more full time than I've done," I'm scared to death we're going to get another 3 year title reign.
No, I would say one thing. I don't think he's here for 2, 3 more years. I think this is his way of saying, I'm going out as a full-time star. And then I'm going to do movies like Rock.
I hope you're right, Rep.
Well, his full-time schedule only covers the summer. Apparently.
Maybe he drops it to Gunther. Maybe he does drop it. I mean, I think Gunther or Breaker is the most likely the person. People have said Obafemi. I think that's way too soon. I think Breaker or Gunther, I think the most likely candidates to take
one of them two.
Yeah,
I agree. One of them two will probably take it from me.
It's not going to be for me. It's not going to be a very fun summer because those main events with Roman in and I don't want to see the Bloodlines. I had my feel, and it was 4 years of the Bloodline stuff. I don't need to see it again. It's 4 years with this. It's the same characters as well. This is what I mean. It's the same, and the Usos have just stepped back into line like little bitches. I don't know why they'd agree to do this. If I was Jimmy or Jey Uso, I'd be like, I ain't doing that. That means that I've had no character progression for the last 4 years. Everything I've done has been completely pointless because I found myself right back in exactly the same position I was in 4 years ago. Exactly. Why would you want to do that?
Who knows?
I don't know.
Here's the problem I have as well is we know about Roman's limitations on the mic. And he doesn't have Heyman now to bail him out. So what is he actually going to do now that he actually has to be able to cut a promo?
I mean, the crowd do react to him. He's got that going. But at least for now, the crowd are with him. But you got to remember that most of the time that crowd responded to him is when he was a heel. Because he had ways to cover up. Because I don't think he's a natural on the mic. People seem to tell me he is, but I don't think he is. I think he's still quite awkward. He might have gotten better. That's fair enough. I'm not saying he's as bad as he was. He's not. But he's gotten better because he's playing the heel character. But once they start shoving him down your throat as the babyface Roman, don't think that people might not rebel again. because they will. If he starts going back into those old mannerisms, I'm not saying he's going to, but if he does, right, the spear fest, the spam in the Superman punch, spam in the spears. Me and Alan used to take the mick out of him all the time when he was doing his stuff as a babyface. He got more bearable as a heel, but if he's going to be doing the babyface stuff where it's going to be how he used to wrestle before as a babyface, then this could they could turn on him very quick. I mean, don't say they can't. They turned on Cody Rhodes already. And I think Cody Rhodes is a much better babyface than Roman Reigns is, personally. Even though I understand why people are bored of him, because people get bored with anyone if they're the same character for too long. But that's my point. We're going back to the bloodline, and people have already seen this. It's the bloodline with the same characters. And wouldn't this be more exciting if Jimmy Uso was the world champion and it was Roman Reigns who had to get in line? But it's not. It's the same people in exactly the same positions. It's Roman Reigns as the top dog and Jimmy and Jay as his little bitches. We've already seen it. We've already seen it.
You raise another interesting point, and it's probably my final point of the night. I was listening to an interview by John Cena recently, and as good as he was on the mic, and legendary on the mic even, he said he probably got pigeonholed into the 5 moves of doom because he did the same couple of moves over and over and over again, and then people were so kind of fixated with that limited moveset, he was stuck with it. And I think you're seeing something similar now with Roman Reigns, except unfortunately for Roman Reigns, he has not got a smidgen of the God-given talent that Cena had on the mic.
No, Reigns is at best an average promo. Like I say, he's better than he was, right? When he embraced the heel character, he got a bit more cocky, and he let that cockiness kind of come out in his character, so he got better. Because as a babyface, he was trying to be the Vince McMahon archetypical babyface, but he was coming across as a douchebag. But as a heel, he can let loose that inner douche, if that's the word to use, right? And it more fits who I think he probably is. I don't know him personally, but it's how he comes across. I don't know. He could be the nicest guy in the world for all I know, but it's how he comes across. He comes across like that. So I think it's a natural. I think he's much more of a natural heel, which is why I'm not convinced this is going to work. Because if he's going to be like the fighting babyface champion now, what kind of a fighting babyface has two flunkies with him who are going to interfere for him? That's not a babyface character.
Well, we'll have to see how his matches go.
It's a heel character, isn't it? It's not a babyface character. You don't get a babyface character who's a leader of a faction who's got minions who come and interfere for him.
True.
It's not a babyface character. So, okay, well, it's nearly 9 now, so we've gone on way too long. Apologies, guys. I know Alan wants to do a stream in a second as well, so apologies. But hey, look, it's once a year, right? We only get to do WrestleMania once a year, so it is what it is. But unless there's anything else you guys want to quickly chat about, then we can head off.
Just want to say WrestleMania was disappointing this year.
Yeah, let's give it a rating then. Go on then. Out of 10 then. Come on then. Alan, you go first.
3 out of 10.
Tips to quote Danhausen, you are cussed. 2 out of 10.
Up to the main event, it was a 2 out of 10. I will give it a 4 out of 10, and that's more or less 4 points for the main event because I think the rest of the card was dogs, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
it was a one-match show for me. It was. So.
Yeah, and the biggest star of WrestleMania this year was Hulk Hogan, who's been passed away since for like 269 days or something.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I'm not even going to give that airtime because I read an article today and I'm just like, nope, not talking about him.
Don't worry. His Netflix documentary is out today, 22nd. There you go. Go and watch it. Well, no, we've already seen it all. We saw it on the ads. So
yeah.
All right, then, guys. Well, big up again. Thank you for everyone for joining us. Big up to Alan and big up to Rebelhausen. And hope you enjoyed our 2 hour, so an hour each night. There you go. It's nearly as long as WrestleMania. Actually, it was as long as the WrestleMania matches. If you get rid of all the ads.
We should have put some ads in.
We should have put some ads in just to give you guys. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to Rebel and Alan, and please do join us next week at 7 when we'll be discussing whatever happens in the next week of wrestling, I guess. But until then, take care, and we'll see you guys later on. Bye. Whatever over.